everyone, Jim here, welcome to my channel. Well, it's almost September, and that means Cimmerian September, the reading event that was created by Michael K. Vaughan. Now, Cimmerian September is a celebration of not only Conan, reading Conan stories, but also of the writer Robert E. Howard, who is the greatest pulp writer who ever lived, and I have no hesitation to say that whatsoever. Robert E. Howard has been and always will be my favorite writer. Instead of reading Conan stories this year, what I want to do, what I plan to do for Cimmerian September, I'm going to read the Alborak stories. Now, Alborak is a desert adventurer. His real name is Francis Xavier Gordon, and he existed in the World War I era in the Middle East, and they're very realistic, very exciting adventures, and probably next to Conan are probably my favorite stories that Robert E. Howard wrote. You know, and that changes and goes back and forth because it's really hard to pin, you know, a favorite of Robert E. Howard's stories. But I mean, the Alborak stories are up there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the books that I'll be reading and some of the comic book adaptations that were made from the stories. So we're going to start with these great Berkeley Medallion editions. There were 16 of these that came out. 2 of them featured Francis Xavier Gordon. This is Son of the White Wolf with a Ken Kelly cover. Now, these were just fantastic books. These are probably my favorite set of Robert E. Howard books, and I really love these. So this book features Blood of the Gods, The Country of the Knife, and Son of the White Wolf. Now, the next one, and I'll show you the Berkeley Medallion edition, is The Lost Valley of Iskander, and that's another Ken Kelly cover. Ken Kelly did all the covers for these Berkeley Medallion editions. This particular one didn't have a fold-out poster. The last one I showed you did, but this book features the stories The Daughter of Erlich Khan, The Lost Valley of Iskander, and Hawk of the Hills. So that's the Berkeley Medallion edition of that book. And here I have the Zebra Books version. And this is this one here is illustrated throughout by the artist Michael Kaluta. And this is a reprint of the hardcover book that came out from Fax Publishers. But the whole book is just these beautiful black and white illustrations throughout by Michael Kaluta. This is a fantastic book to have, and that's The Lost Valley of Iskander, and from Zebra Books. Now, Robert E. Howard wrote a novel with Alborak, maybe a novella. It's a short novel, and that was Three-Bladed Doom. There was a short version and a longer version, and there's this is an ace book, Three-Bladed Doom, and this was a longer story featuring Alborak, Francis Xavier Gordon. This is a Zebra book. The cover has nothing to do with the story. Looks more like a Conan, like a fantasy story, but this is another book featuring the story Three-Bladed Doom. Now, you can also get all the stories that I just showed you in this Del Rey edition, Alborak and Other Desert Adventures. And these Del Rey books are fantastic. I don't think, you know, the Del Rey books don't have all the Robert E. Howard stories. I do believe there's still some that weren't published in the Del Rey editions, but Robert E. Howard Foundation Press have printed probably the ones that are missing from the Del Rey volumes, but this is just a great book, and this has all the Desert Adventures, also featuring the Kirby O'Donnell character. So, and this is illustrated throughout. And I'll show you the stories that were included in this one. And there's essays also talking about the character and about the development of the character. This features Swords of the Hills, which is actually the Lost Valley of Iskander, Daughter of Erlich Khan, Three-Bladed Doom, Hawk of the Hills, Blood of the Gods, Sons of the Hawk, Son of the White Wolf, Gold from Tatari, Swords of Shahrazar, The Trail of the Bloodstained God, and The Fire of Azurbanipal. And then it's got some miscellanea about the character and the stories. So that's what I'm going to be reading this upcoming month. But there's also some interesting tangential things. The story Three-Bladed Doom was adapted by L. Sprague de Camp into a Conan story and called The Flame Knife. And the story, as adapted by L. Sprague de Camp, originally appeared in this volume, Conan the Wanderer. This is number 4 with that Boris cover, and it was also reprinted again in this Ace paperback. Now, when L. Sprague de Camp adapted the Alborac stories, he had to add supernatural elements to the stories, because Alborac, Francis Xavier Gordon, is very much set in our real world, you know, with nothing supernatural involved. So when L. Sprague de Camp adapted them, he had to add supernatural and you know, kind of fantasy elements to it. So this one is illustrated throughout by is it Esteban Morato? Yeah, I do believe so. Illustrated by Morato, and just a great pen and ink artist. And there's just tons of illustrations throughout this, and it's just a nice book to have. And as you know, as L. Sprague de Camp stories go, it's probably one of my favorites because it is a Robert E. Howard story, but it still makes for an exciting read. So I'm going to be trying to read all these and for September, and you know, I'll keep you posted as I go. So now, The Flame Knife, you know, Three-Bladed Doom adapted into the prose story, The Flame Knife. Now, when Marvel Comics came around, Roy Thomas, the writer of the Conan comics and the Savage Sword of Conan magazine, didn't really have permission earlier on to adapt L. Sprague de Camp stories until, you know, the comic really took off, the character really took off, and in the midst of the popularity of both the comic book and the magazine, Roy Thomas was able to adapt L. Sprague de Camp stories, you know, through Robert E. Howard. It's a Robert E. Howard story, L. Sprague de Camp, and through into the comics. So The Flame Knife, I'm going to show you 2 prominent stories that were adapted. So The Flame Knife was adapted into this issue of the Savage Sword of Conan, and part 2 in this one, and these are numbers 31 and 32 of the Savage Sword of Conan magazine. And this, as I said, it was written by Roy Thomas, and the art was by John Buscema and Tony DeZuniga. You know, and look at that. Look at that. That's just awesome. I mean, he wasn't the best inker on John Buscema, but actually he was pretty good. He wasn't bad. I don't mind his art at all, and you know, Buscema definitely had a lot worse inkers than Tony DeZuniga. But yeah, these are just lovely. That's a Howard Chaykin cover, and this one was a Val Mayerik cover, even though he's channeling Earl Norham there, but it is a Val Mayerik cover. And yeah, so that's a pretty hefty adaptation of The Flame Knife. I'll try to show you a little bit more here from it. It really is just these Savage Sword of Conan magazines were fantastic. I'm so happy to have what I have. I have most of them. I'm only missing a few, but they're Very, very beautiful magazines to have. Now, that was The Flame Knife. Now the story, The Daughter of Erlich Khan, was adapted into the Savage Sword of Conan magazine in the last 2 issues. And that would have been 234 and number 235. And the artwork in these is penciled and inked by John Buscema, and is probably some of the best work I've ever seen him do. He's my favorite artist. John Buscema has been inspiring me as an artist since I've been a kid. He's my favorite artist of all time. And yeah, so I don't know if you can see that. I mean, just fantastic art. Let me try to find something else for you here. He was a master at comic book art. I'll show you this last panel here. This is magnificent. If I can get to it. That's the last page of this part 1. And that's this was renamed The Daughter of Raktavashi instead of The Daughter of Erlich Khan, you know, to differentiate it from the original Robert E. Howard story. And of course there was supernatural elements added to this story, as I said. Now this is the very last issue of Marvel's Savage Sword of Conan, and this has a Rudy Nebres cover. And this is called The Rage of Goblins, and this continues the adaptation of The Daughter of Erlich Khan. You know, Conan replacing the character of Velborak in the story. And, you know, if you can pick these up, they're well worth picking up. Just beautiful, beautiful. You know, this is some of my favorite comics of all time are these comics. And the art is just wonderful, just magnificent. If you're not able to get the magazines that adapt the Alborak stories into the Conan stories, you can also find them in these omnibus volumes, these black and white omnibus volumes. The Flame Knife appears in this one, volume 3. I didn't mark the page, but it's in here somewhere. And The Daughter of Erlich Khan appears in this one, number 22. Of the Savage Sword of Conan black and white omnibus that came out a few years ago. I think they might be a little more difficult to find now. They also came out in when Marvel was reprinting the hardcovers of Savage Sword of Conan. They made it available there too, and I think Titan Comics is now reprinting the stories in hardcover. So that's yeah, definitely worth picking up. You know, and they did a pretty good job of printing them in these books. So that's going to be my Cimmerian September. It's still has a little Conan in it. You know, even it's called Cimmerian September, but it's all about Robert E. Howard stories. But since it is Cimmerian, you still want to get a little Conan in there. So I'll be reading the Alborak stories, and I'll be reading those comic book adaptations of the stories. And I will keep you posted as I go. So that's it for me. I will talk to you guys very soon. Until next time, take care and keep reading.